Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And today, the two of us are going to talk about some important articles of industry know-abouts, whereabouts. I think I meant whereabouts. I was like, no, stuff you should know about the industry. Whereabouts?
There's a whereabouts.
Anyways, it has to do with millennials.
Oh.
So, Brian, you're going to be, you're not even on deck. You're at the plate. So, first article today, some millennials, Gen Zers, not you, plan to...
Almost could have been me, but no.
Some millennials and Gen Zers plan to tap into retirement savings to buy a home. They really shouldn't, an advisor says. So, nearly one-third of aspiring home buyers plan to pull money from their 401k plan to help cover the cost, according to the Real Financial Progress Index by BMO Financial Group. Millennials and Gen Zers are more likely than older workers to say they will pull from retirement accounts to buy a home. And while 401k loan might be a better option, doing so entails its own set of risks, experts say. Brian, there's a lot in this article, but let me get your take right up top.
So, right off the bat, I actually have two clients that are pulling from their 401k to complete their closing costs and down payment. Yeah. So they're two brothers. They're purchasing together, and I actually helped them walk through the process of, giving their 401k company a call to let them know, hey, we're going to be, taking out money to be able to, pay for our closing costs or down payments. One of the things that I did notice is that they requested, the loan estimate, the documents, and certain documents to verify that you're using the money for the purchase of your house. So
the retirement fund or the manager, the fund manager, or whoever they're contacting, saying, "Hey, validate that that's what you're using it for."
Exactly. Yeah.
There's people right now, just so you know, in watching this on their phone or their tablet or TV, pulling their hair out, like, "No, don't do that."
Yeah.
But okay, continue telling this story.
So I look at it like, I think the younger generation understands that they have a lot more time to go in the workforce, so they could pull from it now and they'd say, hey, I'll replenish it later.
Okay.
Whereas I feel the older generation probably cringes at this because that's like to them untouchable and like you shouldn't do that. Whereas the millennials are like, well, hey, I have that opportunity to tap into that money. I'm able to utilize it now, although it's gonna might hurt me in the later times of my when I retire, but they rather have the house right now.
So are you thinking? So you're saying that it sounds to me like part of your saying is it's philosophy.
Yeah.
There's a difference of opinion generationally, but you're also saying, well, not saying, but I'm inferring that you're saying this is their chance. Like, well, I'm gonna get a house. I got to do it this way.
Yeah.
And I have to do it. This is where my money's at right now, because that's money that would maybe be represented in savings if it wasn't in the 401k.
Yeah.
I would be. I'm guessing, but. It's safe. It's a safer guess, I guess, without knowing these people being surveyed.
Yeah.
So, okay. So they're doing that because they want to get into the market philosophically. Like, hey, I got plenty of time to play catch up, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the key through the doorway of homeownership.
Well, it's either, I have to come up with all that money elsewhere through savings, which is already difficult as it is for, the younger generation. But then again, I think it does fall a lot under, your financial habits and, what you do day in and day out with your money, your budgeting. Because, we have seen other examples where the millennials come up with their own down payment. But in this instance, I feel that if the opportunity of getting a house to not getting a house is tapping into your retirement, I think a lot of people are going to weigh that and say, hey, like, I want the house. I'll take that investment right now out to be able to get into my property. Down the line, they can utilize the house to replenish that 401k or pay it back, because once you take it out, you do have to pay it back. There is a certain, tax hit that you get on it. I think it says 10% plus a fee for, taking out the money. So as long as you're able to repay that back, and you have a strategy to do so, I think it's a smart idea, because no one's going to give you those thousands of dollars up front unless you save them or you have somebody in your family that, wants to give funds to you for your, your purchase.
Well, yeah, so first of all, I think part of this is we've already been talking and covering about millennials buying homes in untraditional means, like with other friends or with a significant other that's not yet their spouse, also with other family members. So I'm not entirely surprised that they would also do this as well, which is, again, a non-traditional way towards taking money that's supposed to be for your future to get something for yourself now. Yes, there's a tax consequence for early withdrawal penalties. It's basically generally early withdrawals from retirement accounts can trigger taxes and a 10% penalty unless the account owner meets a listed exception. And it does count for taxes because it's basically income that was deferred taxes. So not taxed on the way in, it's going to be taxed on the way out. Qualifying first-time homebuyers may be able to take up to a $10,000 penalty free. And then with Roth IRAs, owners can withdraw their post-tax contributions at any time without penalty, again, because they're post-tax. So yeah, I mean, it's basically either savings or savings, like
Yeah.
savings via savings account or savings via 401k. But it seems to me like these things go hand in hand, right? And so the general subset of non-characteristic, fundamental kind of traditional ways of buying home are just that's what this is. This is part of too. I feel like it's just all packaged in with all the other stuff we've been talking about.
Well, I think that, based on everything that's happening, the opportunity arises that this is now a way of you being able to get into your house if you have that money, for saving through your employment. But like I said, it's really tough for somebody right now to, let alone have the income to be able to approve for a house at a starter price, for a starter mid-priced home. Being this young, I think leveraging that 401k, although it might be looked frowned upon by financial experts because, you shouldn't touch that, I still think that right now in this present instance, it's an opportunity that if you have it, great. If not, well, you better hope that your family or somewhere else you're able to get that money.
Well, and one of the people that's quoted in the article even says the key thing is to ensure that you pay that back over time.
Yeah.
And so, but this is paying that back in addition to now having a house and a
Yes.
mortgage payment. So,
Yes.
it's not always that the house is going to be more expensive. In most cases, it is, just from the data we have and we collect all the time. So there's that issue. But then also trying to pay yourself back, quote unquote, your future self back. I understand that the argument being made is this is a palatable option for most people because this is where they can get the down payment money from. How confident are you, like, in people being able to also pay themselves back and their future money back that they just took out early? Is this something you think, like, would you do this? Would you do this? Like, would Brian sitting here today do this if this was the difference between you getting in a home or not getting in a home?
I think if I have the plan and the right strategy to be confident to pay it back, I would do it. And as long as I'm able to pay it back and not just kind of shoot myself in the foot, because obviously you got to replenish those funds. I think it's an opportunity and something that should be considered if you don't have those funds accessible. I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it.
Let me ask a question. Let me ask a follow-up question, because I think it'd be maybe even an easier yes. If you used that to buy a place that had cash flow, and it was a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex, would you do it?
Yeah, because now it pays itself off. Now
or pays itself back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pays itself back.
If you're disciplined and you have a plan, then you can take back some of that like cash flow and put it back towards the that amount you took out.
And I think that's the biggest thing of this, that if you are able to structure it in the right way where you're not going to be bleeding down the line, I think it's a smart move. But it really just comes down to the person, their habits, and who they are and how they basically live their life. Because maybe it's not right for everybody. Maybe those forced savings for some people, they do require them to stay there because they don't know how to really manage their money in the smartest way. But I think that the people that do take the chances also understand that they have to take that commitment to pay it back.
Yeah, so part of me, when I was preparing for today's show, I was thinking about this, and often in 2023, we were citing that we would see creative solutions come to the market from like the banking industry, from municipalities, from builders, and all sorts of sectors of real estate and finance to make sure that homes could still be bought and sold and that kind of thing and financed. Now, this has been around a long time. This isn't some new thing, but I think that the trend is that the next generation coming up into homeownership is now tapping their retirement in order to do that, which, again, I've known people that have done that too. And it's always for a variety of reasons. It's not just because they're desperate. It is more of a tactical move. And like, let's be honest, if you are putting money away into a 401k, you're already thinking about your future a little bit. You're already committing dollars today, or I should say you're setting aside dollars that you could be spending today for dollars you want to have available to you tomorrow. So while this is not a new idea, I'm not so totally surprised that millennials are doing it too. But I do think it runs concurrent with everything else we've been talking about with the creativity of the market. People are just going to figure ways out. Well, it's the only way it is right now.
And also, I feel like generations before, millennials, Gen Zers, they only had one vehicle of retirement. And that might have been like, their pension, their 401k, where now I feel millennials see it the different ways where they can, because you see it right here. It goes tax-free but comes out taxed. So you're still going to be paying some sort of tax when you bring it all out. And I don't think in this type of world and where we're at now, a 401k is going to help you get through your whole retirement life. So I think there must be, more supplemental types of retirement pays that you would have to build in nowadays to be able to live comfortably in those years. Because we see it that people retire, they finish their life working for a company that they worked for their whole life, but still aren't able to pay for the cost of living because of the retirement not being enough. And these are
Yeah.
true stories that we probably know people that are going through this that have to pick up a job around 65 because they still don't have everything from their retirement, which is now like, well, the younger generation sees it like, hey, that's just one avenue. I can leverage this to then get in my house, because I think, or I feel that the people that understand how real estate works knows that, hey, as long as I get that one property, that's going to unlock a lot more opportunities.
Yes.
And you financially become smarter in the way that you look at everything, because now it's more of a business move rather than a like emotional move. Whereas now you're okay, well, I could take these deductions. I understand how money works, how finances work. So you put yourself in a better position to move forward, building generational wealth through different avenues.
So what would your advice be? Let's say to someone who is watching this and they're a millennial, what would your advice be to them? If they're sitting here and they're thinking, hey, I'm going to take money out on my 401k or my IRA, what would you tell them they should do as part of their strategy?
So I would honestly try to, if you can't come up with the money all yourself, at least try to come up with as much as you can from your own pocket. And then just make sure that when you're calculating, that you're going to take out that certain amount that you're going to use, know that, you're going to have to pay it back, and also allocate that in your monthly payments for everything that you're going to pay, along with, your property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and all that stuff. And just kind of factor it in that so that you could pay that back sooner rather than later. And then your money could still start accumulating, how it was before you took it out. Yeah. But I just really think that shouldn't be your first option if you have other routes available. You know, so I think it's a great place to be able to access the funds if needed, but I think that shouldn't be your first resort.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things to think about. Number one, take the long view, the big picture. Like if this is something you're going to do, then make sure you're committing to this place for a specific period of time, longer than, let's say, 3 or 5 years. Or in that same 3 to 5 year window, please have a financial plan for that place to cash flow, turn into some sort of offset for you, so you're not just eating that amount every month and then also trying to pay yourself back. I would also suggest pay yourself back as fast as possible.
Correct.
In that, and then if you are trying to do this so that you can get into real estate and stay in real estate for a long time, then stick with your intention. So if that's going to be your position to do that, and you're making such a big decision in order to do that, then stick with it. Stick to your guns.
Yep, I think so.
And be confident in your choice.
And I mean, everybody's gonna have different routes. I just feel that there's more options coming out. So I think even with like down payment assistance, there's a lot of different programs that are now rolling out, which I think is very interesting. But then again, it's not for everybody. Sometimes you just have to take an alternative route. But I think it's really case by case.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Case by case, as always the case.
Yeah.
Well, that was good, Brian. We're going to continue the millennial train. I guess millennial and Gen Z. So this is going to be Gen Zers and young millennials took out 40% of U.S. mortgages in 2023. Now, there were not a lot of mortgages done in 2023 relative to the years leading up to that, but 40%
of those.
That's quite a bit. 2 in 5 new mortgages issued last year went to buyers under 35, and 27% went to buyers aged 35 to 44. Young people take out the majority of mortgages because they're of prime home buying age, gaining financial stability and growing families. Plus, they're less likely than older people to pay cash. Buyers under 35 took out nearly half of all new mortgages issued in Pittsburgh last year, the highest share of any major metro. 35 to 44-year-olds took out roughly 2 in 5 new mortgages issued in the Bay Area, the highest share of any major metro.
People still buying homes in San Francisco?
People, well, you know why? It's because people are selling homes in San Francisco.
Yeah, there you go. You're right.
Yes, people still live in homes in San Francisco. Sorry, San Francisco. We're not trying to step on you. But it was too easy. Okay, so lion's share of mortgages went to younger people last year. You see on the chart here on your screen that younger Americans are most likely to take out mortgages. You have under 35 reached 40% in 2023. And then 35 to 44, just, what was that, 27%?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge number. You're talking about, was that 67%? 2/3 of the homes are sold to people under 44, which, I think is
the sweet spot.
Pretty much the sweet. Yeah, I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. I mean, most of the people we see in here are under 44, and I would say most people who are over 44, there's something significant changing in their life. They got a brand new job that requires them to move, or they're moving up. They are maybe even also now at this point starting to take in a senior parent who might need help. They are also in the window where they might be having empty nesting happening soon, meaning, oh, the kids are going to finish high school in a couple of years. We're going to move in that time, and we're going to go buy a new house. So it is of no surprise that as you get older in this chart here, there's less and less representation as far as who's taking out mortgages. And again, people who are in their older ages typically are trying to pay off their home, not have a mortgage at all, and then just live with only having to pay their taxes every month.
I mean, that's
insurance.
beautiful. Yeah.
That'd be beautiful, right?
One of the things that I thought was, pretty interesting was that they actually quoted a reference saying agents say younger buyers tend to be less faced than older generations by mortgage rates, and I think that's a characteristic I'm picking up on. A lot of the people that I'm talking to, just in general. I mean, a lot of the business that I do is for millennials and people that are under that 40 range, and what I am seeing is that they're more inclined towards being payment driven rather than rate driven.
Mm-hmm.
And if the payment makes sense, they're okay with the payment. The rate could be what it is. Although it still plays a huge part in it, you really can't do nothing about the rate. When you go buy a car, your credit is attached to your rate. So if you can work on your credit, that's going to give you the best chances. But I feel like that's kind of taking out of the play of like, now it's just like, well, if I can make the payment, the rate doesn't really matter because the payment's what I'm worried about. Down the line, you could have opportunities to refinance so that you could pay more towards the principal. But in the instance right now, I feel that people are looking at it like, well, hey, we know the problem is shortage of inventory. So if things aren't getting better, which they haven't been for the last 2 years as far as the inventory crisis, then right now might be the only opportunity that I have to truly get into something to then later on have myself in a position where I'll be able to get to that property that I really want, because I'll be able to use it as a stepping stool to then utilize this to either rent it out, sell it for a profit, and then come in with that, big cash amounts that, you see other buyers, older buyers coming in with where they sold their house, they have, hey, $300,000 cash from the property that they just sold, and they could put it all into that property. And right now, with the rates being so high, that down payment significantly brings the payment down to something where it's comfortable for them. Like, we have a client right now where they're selling their house. They're going to be netting $295K. They're buying for $865, and their payment's going to be, like $3,900.
Mm-hmm.
That for them is something that's comfortable. It's still a house that's, over $250,000 or $750,000. But that right there is the biggest thing that they bring that payment down, and they're okay with the payment. The rate's what it is. They're like, I'm worried about the payment. And if I can continue to make that every month, that's what my focus is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think so. Great points there. A couple things. First, you were mentioning how, maybe Gen Z and millennials are more focused on the monthly payment than the interest rate. I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, for now, most of your adult life, things have been broken down into monthly payments, and it's not as much about the rate. It could be the car lease or the car payment, the car loan. It's, the newest phone came out. The payment is $40 a month or $30 a month.
Exactly.
It's just, what's the subscription payment for this service or that service and entertainment and all that. So kind of, I'll say, subscription model consumerism, I think, is maybe kind of emerging with the idea of, just what's the payment? I'm not as interested in the rate. And you also said at the top of the segment, something that was interesting is that they're less phased. Yeah, they're saying that in the article. But here's what's funny: is you get older in the graph, they're also less phased by the rate. You know why? Because they owned a house when it was 13 or 16, and now it's 7. Like 7? Why y'all complain about 7?
Jeez.
Because they're on the other side of the unfazed argument, which is, when it came down to 11, I refinanced right away.
and I really feel it's for
that sounds crazy.
And the people that bought houses or were aware of the market when rates tanked, I think those are the people that hold the most, like, oh, rates are so high now, because they compare it to that, and that's the only example that they could utilize in real life to say, hey, well, that's what I can compare what rates are and what I wish they would be. But again, that was a weird time. It was very artificial, and it was only short-lived. Unfortunately, we're back to what is what average is, and I believe the average rate, don't quote me, is anywhere between 7-8% in the last 50 years. So we're basically right where average rate is for the last 50 years since they've been taking account of for rates. Yeah,
and I think, again, part of the way that these numbers are looking, it's the result of people being creative in how they're buying homes. It's me and my friend are going to go do this, or me and a couple friends are going to do that. I'm going to use a family member who's going to buy this with me, or the person that my significant other that I'm not married to yet, but we are eventually be married or whatever. Like they're making that commitment to ownership. And I know that there's a lot of speculation about
Correct.
corporate ownership of homes in the United States right now, and why are all these rich people buying farmland, and then how come all these corporations are buying up neighborhoods, and like there is something to that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not happening. It's freaking happening. At the same time, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know why they're doing it. I can assume why they're doing it. I can assume what they're going to do over the course of time. You will own nothing and be happy.
I mean,
right?
It comes down to like basic necessities, and the people that are playing on these big realms of buying up all this land understand that you need water and you need shelter, and if you're able to capitalize on those, there's only so much land we could build on. So the more that they buy up, unfortunately,
but it's not just the building of the land. It's how that land's held. Is it I'm building like 1,000 rentals, or I'm building 1,000 units that someone can buy? Like if I go build 1,000 rentals, I'm not intending to sell them. I'm intending to rent them. So I think that's part of the what I'm saying. I'm lightly tap dancing around the skepticism of speculation of why that's happening. But it's for control is what it really is. And so I think that the millennial and Gen Zers who are also seeing that, and whose BS meter, frankly, is very high, and can go, oh, I see that's a crap sandwich from a mile away. I'm going to fix my own situation now, or get my own house in order, or whatever you want to, however you want to say it, to phrase it, to say that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's what the numbers are showing. They're saying, hey, I'm going to miss out on this, and unless I do something now, so even if it costs me a higher rate, if I have to do it with somebody else, I got to get money from a family member who's willing to help with a down payment. I mean, we've talked about these things time and time again, and they're just doing it. And as much as people want to hate and say, hey, that's stupid, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, there's risk in any market. There's risk in a high market,
100%.
There's risk in a down market, there's risk in a sideways market by waiting, and there's risk by participating. And the difference is, what rewards are you reaping on the other side of whatever time you're afraid of?
100%. I mean, it's all in the opportunities if you decide to take it or not. And I feel like when they present themselves, the data shows that they're taking them.
Yeah, 100%. And even I dropped this kind of like in that little diatribe there, but talking about millennials and Gen Zs taking financial help from a family, and that's exactly what it is. And I think it's also because there's culturally part of that, hey, we're seeing the same thing. I'm not saying that all families agree and they're just homogenous and no one has any difference of opinion or, cultural perspective. But, even in my own family for, multiple generations, it's a generation ahead of me, a generation behind me. And we all agree, like it's better to own than it is to rent.
Right.
And so however we can foster that into the next generation, we're going to do that. And so that is the goal, regardless of whatever opinion we have about the specific topic or of housing and corporate ownership and that kind of stuff. I think the goal is to get people to own homes.
It's not a one size fits all. Everybody's case by case. So, some going to have great experiences. Some unfortunately didn't, but it's not for you to say, hey, don't go buy a house. Like go experience it for yourself and just, do the research and just, get educated more than anything.
Other thing too, I want to mention this before we go on, is that, depending on where you're at in the country watching this, it does change what percentage of your generation is the owner there. I mean, even in the article it's citing Florida. Well, okay, in Florida, we all know Florida is a retirement haven for a number of reasons. Same thing for Arizona.
Yeah.
And Nevada's kind of getting that way too. There's a lot of people going to Nevada because there's, it's affordable. It's hot during the winter. You're not going to deal with snow in most of it. Mm-hmm. So there are pockets where what it looks like to you is going to look very much different based on where you are in the country and how many of your own generation are owners versus renters. So just take that note as we close out this part of the show.
Nice.
Brian, we are going to talk about the third article today. It is the decision to sell your home versus rent it out is, quote, complicated, experts say. I don't think it's always complicated. So I don't think it's complicated for a number of reasons. I understand why they're arguing that it might be complicated, but let's give some of the details of the article first, and then we can talk about it, okay? Roughly 6 in 10 existing fixed-rate U.S. mortgage holders had an interest rate below 4% during the fourth quarter of 2023. We already know what this is. This is the golden handcuffs we talked about ad nauseum from people refinancing in 2020, 21, and the first part of 2022 before the Fed started raising rates in March, which then, of course, cascades into the mortgage market and mortgage-backed security market also raising rates. So there is that. Many Americans are sitting on low interest rate mortgages and could face a decision when it is time to move, sell, or rent out their existing property. That choice could be tricky, especially for those eager to buy another home. Now, here's why I don't think it's complicated at all. If you can afford to buy another house and keep the one you have as a rental, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
You put a property manager in place, your profit and loss statement for the property, if it pens out that you are making money after all expenses, after all risk, after all liability, then it's a cash flow property in your favor, and you use your own cash and whatever else you have to amass to go buy another place where you're going to move to,
Correct.
live in that place, leave that one as rental, and you can also leave that for a child if you have that as well. So I am of the opinion that if you have the chance to move to another place, don't sell unless you have to. If you can, keep that house to rent it out, and then go get the other one. That way you now have two, and you can leave the house you're leaving for someone else in the legacy plan for your trust and your will and all that stuff.
So I actually have some clients that are they're departing their current duplex and going to be using 75% of that rental income to be able to qualify for the next purchase.
Oh, so it's actually helping to make the next leap. Oh, okay.
So the cool thing about them is that they both bought properties on their own. They both bought duplexes, and then they bought one single family residence in Idaho. And they have two duplexes here in San Diego. The one that they're going to be departing is so that they can now buy their, primary residence at the value and the, purchase price that they want. They have one, I want to say toddler, and they have another baby in the oven currently. So for them, they're utilizing, their rental income from their properties combined with their current income to then be able to purchase a property of, I think they're like in the 900 to $1 million range. But they did that strategically through setting themselves up, buying rental properties, staking in them for a year or two, and then switching them into a rental to then be able to, get that rental income. So what I did know, and I figured out was that when you're departing the property that you're going to be, exiting, you're able to use 75% of that rent. But any other rentals, you're able to use the 100% of the rents. So sometimes when the property that you're departing, if you're going to be utilizing rental income from that one, only 75%. But if you hold other rentals, you could utilize.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the vacancy factor that gets calculated into the real estate owned section of the mortgage application, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
75% of the one you're vacating or leaving, but 100% of the gross income for the other ones that you have contracts for, because you have contracts for them.
Yeah.
And that is validated by the appraisal or the market analysis of those places as part of the underwriting process. So this I think in whole or in part is also part of the just the new approach to homes and to real estate. And a long time ago, it used to just be get a home, white picket fence, you die, you live, you raise your whole house there, your whole family in that home, and you die in that home.
Yeah.
That age broadly has come and gone, and the new way of holding real estate and owning real estate looks more like this. Looks more like, hey, we're gonna leave this place, go to another one, but let's just accumulate them across over the course of time, rather than just go pick up and leave that one. And what do our friends who come to Friends of Mortgage Heroes talk to us about? Even our veteran friends, Lloyd, Herb, Travis. Hey, what would you have done differently? Each of them say, when I was active duty military, I would have kept all my homes that I bought in the places I was PCS to and never sold them, versus selling them and buying another one, selling it and buying another one. They would have just accumulated. Each of them has said that or some version of that same plan when we've asked that question.
And it's tough to convey that message, at times, because, they think that, it's not in their best interest. But when we see an opportunity and we're like, hey, like, this is a genuinely good opportunity that you should probably take, you should really consider it. And I think that's really the sweet spot where, a lot of people don't understand that you can accumulate, multiple properties through your VA loan as long as, you have everything played out correctly. We have a client right now that's going to has a property here in San Diego, but then their husband just got a job offer up in Pomona area. So they're going to be buying another property. So they're going to be commuting. But for that reason, they want to buy another property up there. They're like, hey, we might just rent this one out. But they're like, well, we could just keep both, turn one into a rental, and we could live over there. He commutes. I think he works on one of the bases here in San Diego. But he's like, I'm okay doing the commute as long as we're able to purchase a property up there.
I'll give you even another more further distance thing that we're having a conversation about, which is we have parents who live in Nevada, and we also have parents who live in Florida. We're like, well, both those places are affordable. Which place should we buy a place in first that is just there for us to move there and then bring them in when they need to be brought in? Or just to also be able to have a place that's there when we need to go there. So, that's a conversation that, we're having at our household, but it isn't because of work, it's more because of family dynamics, which again is part of why I'm saying in this article, they're saying the decision to sell your home or rent is complicated. Well, it's not. I wouldn't be changing anything here. I'd be saying, how do I add this over Florida or Nevada
Yeah.
and add that rather than because I wouldn't be leaving this place still. I'd still be here.
Yeah.
I just need a place over there.
and my clients they've owned multiple properties, and not ones that they say, hey, it's been hard being a landlord. As long as you're able to get everything organized, there's plenty of support and plenty of business models in place that ensure that you're going to be able to run a smooth operation with your rentals. So,
well, yeah, I mean, our friend Ivan has places all over the country. He's got a ton out in Arizona. He doesn't manage them. He has someone manage them out in Arizona. My sister-in-law has places in Chicago. She has someone manage them out there. So I mean, she even has someone manage her places here, and she lives here.
And if there's really good property managers out there that not only charge the fee, but they earn their fee by bringing you somebody that could rent the property out. So it's a big tool if you're not in that present market. Like if you don't live in San Diego and you want to buy somewhere else, definitely connect with someone out there that's doing it, because it's going to let you know exactly the ins and outs, and you're going to know exactly what's happening on the ground instead of trying to do it all on yourself.
Well, we've adequately covered the why you should keep it part, but I think when I distill what would incline someone to just sell their place and leave, it's mostly going to be because they have to, or they don't want the hassle. So I can see it got both, or a combination of both reasons where, hey, I have to financially sell this place to take this equity and go buy the other one, the next one, if you will.
Yeah.
Or my situation is such that I'm going to be taking care of somebody else, or I'm going to need the care and I have to sell this place because the money is locked up, tied up in that thing. So I think part of that could be shackles financially that would require someone to sell versus rent. And then obviously just the hassle and the headache of maybe having to get a property manager involved, or so you're not the landlord.
Yeah.
I mean, there are cases, I mean, we've talked about things on this show, or stories on the show, where even younger people had said, you know what? Yeah, I made a bunch of money in real estate and I sold them all. I had over $1 million of equity that I earned through selling the properties because I don't want to have them all, and I have time freedom, and I have flexibility to go wherever I want in the world freedom and all that. So I can see that.
And again, to each his own. Some people might not want to be a landlord. They're like, hey, I don't want anything to do with having to deal with tenants, having to deal with repairs, having to deal with this. Like, I'm okay. I lived in the house. I accumulated my equity. I want to cash out, take it to the next place, and that's just what makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And I think it just comes to the type of person that you are. You're someone that looks at real estate like it's something that you want to do, that you enjoy doing, that you want to be a landlord. Some people like to get into short-term rentals, be hosts for Airbnbs and stuff like that. So there's different ways of skinning the cat. But if you don't have an interest in being a host, answering calls and taking responsibility of your asset like that, then maybe park your money somewhere else, and it might not be for you. But I just think that it really just comes down to who the person is and how they want to do their life. Yeah.
And everything else is kind of cited in this. It has to do with like taxation, has to do with like, your insurance policy when you rent it out is going to be different than with your primary residence. So there's going to be more cost there. So that's all P&L stuff. So when, the beginning of the segment, I'm talking about if it pens out in your P&L, it pens out. Like, that's what I mean. It includes all these other things in the article. If you're interested in reading this article, you're going to find the link description, or the link in the description box below, where you can go check this out for yourself. It brings up things such as capital gains as well. Again, IRS rules. And again, I think hassle is part of this conversation for some people. And then opportunity. Like, does this even fit the financial plan? If it fits your financial plan, go do it. If it doesn't fit it, then obviously you have to figure something else out anyways, and this probably isn't even the biggest problem.
So it's crazy because one of the rental properties that our clients has, they're actually negative on it, and they're negative like $3,000.
You talking about cash flow, or it's upside down? Like
cash flow right now.
Okay, so negative cash flow.
Negative cash flow, but down the line when they're able to refinance and bring the payment down, because they are paying at a current market rate. I believe they bought it close to 2 years ago when rates went up.
Okay.
So they're down on that one, but for them, they're like, hey, I'm looking at this in the long-term play. It's out in North Park. So for them, they know that's a very desirable area, a price that's only going to appreciate. So they're like, hey, we're okay taking the, quote-unquote L on it right now, because down the line, that's going to be something that's going to give us, tenfolds compared to what we're losing right now.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll probably take heat in this in the comments, but I mean, there is an argument to be made where if I'm going to spend $300 a month towards my savings or into an account that has interest-bearing properties to it, and I'm paying $300 out of my pocket to cover the shortage every month on the house, that house will eventually appreciate. The balance on that's eventually going to go down. That'll eventually flip when rent gets when it turns over, and the rent becomes more than the cost. There's that factor. So I'm not necessarily mad about that. I can't stand 100% in defense of it, because if they're struggling and they're failing in life financially, then no, you should not be doing that. But if you are saying, hey, I can float $300 a month, and by doing so, I still own this place, I'm not in any risk of it being like NOD, notice of default, and then foreclosing, then do it do it to your heart's content. Yeah. you still own a place. Someone is paying the majority of it, the lion's share, and you're paying $300 out of pocket. You know, if you're saving $300 a month in retirement or $300 a month in cash, whatever, you're already saving it in one fashion or another. It's just a different one.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, Brian, let's close out today with 1/3 of single-family homes for sale are newly built. Report finds. Here's what buyers need to know.
So I wanted to just, when I saw this article, it was funny because I was watching another video, and the video was talking about permits for San Diego. And they said in the last 12 months, San Diego has only pulled 3,100 permits for single-family residences.
3,100?
3,100.
Wait, when was the time frame of this?
In the last 12 months.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
3,100?
And it's through Reventure app on YouTube. And I cross-referenced, I looked through the data and everything, and I was like, oh shoot, like that's ridiculous. That's like so crazy because we're talking about exactly that, like the shortage inventory, and that right there, if it doesn't like alarm you because they're not building enough properties, and it's, you know, it only just has more fuel to the fire.
Well, it means a couple things. That means, number one, prices are going to stay where they're at or even go up because of lack of inventory. And what's interesting too, though, is because that is really, really thin compared to what this report is. This report says that 33.4% of single-family homes available for sale in the first quarter were newly built, almost double from pre-pandemic levels. Not true here.
Yeah.
According to a new report by Redfin, real estate brokerage site. So what the claim is that what's happened is the level of resale inventory has shrunk. Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But in cases where, in like our town, 3,100 permits in 12 months is not enough for all the demand, that actually forces there to be potentially more resale. And that also means the people that are selling their house now, their pre-existing home, there isn't necessarily just a new build around the corner coming in waiting for them.
Nope.
So...
And I mean, and that all combined is literally what kind of like puts us in a lock, because it's like we can only move so far when we run into a problem.
Yes, and it's also confirming that what they're saying here is also true too. It's like two things are true at the same time. It doesn't mean necessarily that new construction has ramped up.
No.
True. 100% true. And again, maybe this is going to be section by section, across the country. It's going to be different, but I mean, I guess I would expect this to be the case. The fact that it's twice the pre-pandemic level means that developers are really more interested in making new homes now than they were, 2018-19. But that's still really weird, because you're talking about it at, higher cost of building, harder to build. We've talked about this on the show too, with regulatory stuff. And you have the consumer with the lowest affordability in years, and rates the highest they've been in 20 some odd years.
And they're like, let's build.
So it's kind of like it seems like upside down, but I mean, look, if we're going to trust these numbers, and that's twice as much as the pre-pandemic level, that's pretty startling.
Builders are like, hey, better late than never, huh?
Yeah, but well, yes. Okay, look. Okay, so if I put my builder hat on and I'm like, I'm a builder, I need to build homes in order to make money. Like, what, you're just going to wait around forever? No. You still have to build homes if that's how you make money. So same thing for us here. Like, we make loans. All right, well, in any market condition, in any situation, in any rate environment, we still have to do loans, because guess what? People's lives are still happening. They're still PCSing in San Diego because they're getting stationed here. They're leaving San Diego and they need to sell, or they're renting their place out, all these reasons. So I'm not totally like caught off guard by it, but it is just weird to me that it's this much more now than it was before, because the conditions were way more favorable before. I mean, the cost of borrowing money
was way more favorable.
But like the lowest it was forever. And now it's way higher to borrow money to do the building at a higher cost, with more regulatory stuff, and with the consumer having higher rates. It's like literally the whole thing is upside down. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
And I was gonna say, do you think? And I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong, or just give me your input. But do you think it's because now it's costing them more not to build, even though things are more expensive?
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Like, before it was like it's costing us too much to build, and now it's costing us too much not to build. So it's like,
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, it could be. I mean, maybe there's obviously a lot of moving parts here, because you're also talking about cost to build relative to resale price, and if resale price is higher now, well then go build the thing. You might make more margin today than you do back then, but maybe it's proportionate to costs.
Yeah.
Maybe you're making $100,000 a build, in 2019. Maybe you're still making only $100,000 in 2024. I don't know. You get my point?
Yeah, I mean, just slimmer profits is basically, I mean, what's it like, make something or not make anything, but either way, it's going to cost you more.
No, I'm saying the profit could be the same no matter what the market's doing. Oh,
Yeah.
my cost to build was down here, and our resale price was up here. 6 years later, guess what? My cost is up here. My
profit's still the same.
Yeah, the profit might be the same. Maybe the profit is less. I don't know. I actually don't know that when I'm citing. I'm just reading this particular article, but I'm just hypothesizing that it could be that because you have things that are up and to the right. Mortgage rates are up and to the right. Median sales price is up and to the right. Down here, bottom of the article, median sales price for new houses sold in the U.S. during March was $430,700, according to the latest data from U.S. Census Bureau and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So $430,000, that is very up and to the right compared to what it was in 2019. The quote-unquote pre-pandemic when there was half the amount of building that's happening there is right now.
But then I also feel that, with house prices being so high in certain areas, like here in San Diego, you look at let's say $800,000 house that's not brand new, and then you look at one that's brand new, and you see the differences, and I could see why some people would be like, well, I'd rather go with the new build. Yeah, it's costing me more up front, but if I compare that to a regular property, I'd rather go with the new one.
Well, yeah, and plus the builder has ways to incent you.
Yeah,
they could give you closing cost credit. They can even do a price reduction if they really have to.
Correct.
They could be giving you upgrades in the house from your flooring, your tile, your appliances, things like that. So they maybe have other things to offer than a previously owned home does. But it's that same thing, man, where I'm just like, this is so startling. It's like this right now.
And one of the things that I will say that I think a lot of people don't take into consideration when they see a new build, although it's priced a lot lower, or it might seem a little bit more affordable, you are paying for Melrose up front, and you are paying for an HOA. And in the new builds and the new communities, those Melroses aren't cheap. They're like an extra $4,000 to $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that in itself could be just a regular property tax payment for some people here in San Diego.
Yeah.
But now you're adding that plus the property tax rate, so you're literally coming out of pocket. I mean, on average, for a new build, if you're around $750,000, you're gonna be paying like $1,000 in property taxes and Melrose. And that's kind of a month on top of your principal and interest, your insurance. That you better hope your house is not in a vulnerable area, because that's also going to play a big part. So it's not always the most cost effective going the new build route. But
nowhere's buying a dilapidated place that needs $150,000 of repairs right up front and is the same price.
So you come to two crossroads. Like, which one do you want to go with? Some people are like, hey, I'll take the one that needs work because I can work on it little by little and, kind of like maneuver my way into it. Or, I'd rather just pay it a lot more a month and just get everything turnkey ready.
I know what I've seen from you guys here at the office, the people you're talking to and the applications you're taking, and even the purchase we're making. People are willing to pay the extra money when it has land that you can build an ADU on, or do a garage conversion, or do a second floor, or all of the things I just mentioned.
Yep.
That is worth their money because, again, they're thinking with this cash flow mentality, and it's not about, the new build is just a single-family home, or it's a condo, or it's a townhome. It's not necessarily got an ADU in the back already. There are some neighborhoods you get out to the nicer parts, there's going to be an ADU already there.
Yeah.
Or it's a resale house that someone already built an ADU on, and people are going to be willing to pay that money. But if it came to new build SFR, single family residence, versus older house that has potential for cash flow and greater value by building on it, I think that's an even score for most people. They're willing to take the place that needs some work financially because it will be worth that soon.
Yeah.
The regular house is just going to ebb and flow with the market.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot you can do with it. So I can see that being a little more of a neck and neck type of comparison, and for the decider.
And I think that's a great comparison, because I mean, you look at it, is it something that's already priced out that you can't really win much more on it? Or can you get something that you're actually going to be able to profit as you kind of go through your years of paying your mortgage?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you should take into consideration, because maybe that new build might not benefit you as much as you think down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is nice to have a new home though.
Yeah,
it's nice to have a new home. It's nice to have a new neighborhood.
Hotel, elevators in your house. I went to go tour some new builds here out in the Millennial area. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, why?
Yeah. Why? What do you mean? Why not? What? See, there's no reason why not. Elevator in the house. Mark us down.
I thought it was a little bit too much.
I'll take 2.
But yeah, I would definitely want an elevator in my house. Come on now.
Show notes in the corner. We'll take 2 elevators, please. Okay, so let's close this out, Brian. This article, they're suggesting there's 4 things you pay attention to. Number 1, considering a smaller house. Number 2, being open about geographic location. Number 3, keeping construction costs down low. And number 4, being mindful of future costs. We kind of already covered some of these things either in the show or when we're talking here about new construction versus regular homes, that kind of thing. I really do think that when it comes down to opportunity for long-term legacy cash and value, that's mostly where people are going to lay their head when they come to us. Yes, there are people that are just coming in with their vanilla, hey, I'm just trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine too. And in that case, if you're trying to buy a house, new build is probably going to be the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and it all starts from when we speak to our clients and just really understanding what it is that they want and what they're looking to accomplish. I think that's the most important thing, because then you can really kind of move everything out of the way that doesn't need to be focused on, and you can really just give them a clear picture of, hey, this is the example that we're doing. We have plenty of clients that already done this before. They've had success, so it's easier to just understand what they want and then be able to just provide that.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of the show today?
Gen Zers and Millennials, 40%. Let's go. Young generation.
I agree. Favorite part of the show for me today is to see how many younger people are leaning in towards real estate. We've had to unfortunately cover a lot of the difficulties and challenges of affordability and with inventory and with rates and all that. Even the insurance thing is a huge problem right now for most people buying a house, especially in California. But I am really, really encouraged to see that so many people are willing to move forward into real estate, number 1, and kind of subset 1A, do it in creative ways, whether that's borrowing from your 401k but paying yourself back, or moving in with friends or significant others, not your spouse yet. I think it's great. I'd rather people own homes rather than a bunch of conglomerate corporations and people we don't know.
Yep.
That are
BlackRock, Vanguard.
Well, we don't know them, so that's why I'm saying people we don't know, but we know who they are. We know their name, we don't know them. They don't know us.
I don't know them either.
All right. Brian, thank you again for a great show. For those of you watching this episode, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our other playlist called Friends of Mortgage Heroes, where Brian, Will, and myself interview and talk with our friends in and around real estate about success, trials, and tribulations, and living a life of great purpose in and around real estate, and how to make real estate win for you and your family moving forward. I think that's it for this week.
No, I think that's it.
All right. Awesome, you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.